An old friend has reemerged on social media. An old friend by the name of Pretty Ricky.
I think he goes by Slick Rick now.
I believe he's by Slick Rick.
He's gone from pretty to slick.
So, for those of you that aren't aware, about a year and a half ago, our friend Colin Russo was still working at ESPN Madison at the time. He came on this program and said, Strouf, have you heard about Pretty Ricky? And me and Hunter thought he was like on drugs or something. We had no idea what the hell he was talking about.
You ever heard the band Pretty Ricky?
Well, yes, the band, but he was referring to a person on Twitter who was an NFL insider, allegedly. And we're like, we have no idea what you're talking about. He's like, this guy's incredible. He's been tweeting things out before they happen. And we're like, okay. So the long and short is Pretty Ricky is somebody who is believed to have some sort of inside info. He works for an agency or he works for the league.
An agent. It's somebody who works for one of the big agencies.
So he gets all this information and he leaks it under the pseudonym Pretty Ricky. And he got a couple things wrong last summer or maybe during the season. So he shut down his account, but he now made a new account. And Joshy sent this to us. I don't know if it was Wednesday night or yesterday morning.
I think Wednesday night.
And Pretty Ricky tweeted, excuse me, Slick Rick Scoops tweeted, the Packers are working on an extension for left tackle Rasheed Walker that they hope to have done before training camp. So before we dive in like this is a fact, consider the source. Sometimes he's right, sometimes he's wrong.
Mostly right, though.
This would certainly throw... Yeah, mostly right, though.
The thing is, the incentive to make up a story about Rasheed Walker is so little. There's one fan base that even knows who he is.
Yeah.
Like, if you're making up something about a Trey Hendrickson or TJ Watt extension,
that's one thing.
That's right.
Agreed.
But Rasheed Walker, who's an afterthought to, let's be honest here, probably the majority of even Packers fans.
Correct.
To me, would be a weird way to try and get engagement and interactions. Like, Rasheed Walker getting an extension ain't doing numbers.
Right. Rasheed Walker isn't a needle mover.
Right.
But I think this is really, really important to acknowledge. Because the moral of the story here is, look, the Packers have a lot of decisions to make on their offensive line after this season or during this season, right? Zach Tom is one of them. Rasheed Walker is one of them. Sean Ryan, the right guard, is one of them. And if they are going the route, as I just mentioned, the general manager literally said it's in their plans to lock up Zach Tom long term, and now you have this report that their other tackle, Rasheed Walker, is getting locked up long term, what does that tell you what the Packers think of last year's first-round pick? What did the Packers think of Jordan Morgan? Because if this is true, both of these are true, that tells me a guy you drafted to play tackle who said on draft night he's looking forward to protecting Jordan Love's blind side. What does that tell you they think of him? Because to me, it says they are not in love with Jordan Morgan, nor the development or lack thereof that he's made through his first season plus in the NFL. And that's concerning because it's another first-round pick under Brian Gutekunst, which seemingly is not going to work out at least the way that you intended it to work out.
I think while I understand why your brain's going there, I think you're reading into it too much. I think you've got a very good player in Rasheed Walker, also a player that I think the Packers front office has let us know they weren't as sold on or happy with the offensive line performance as to what we thought they were, and many of the graders and people do it. With where Jordan Morgan was drafted, that is totally fine for that to be a starting tackle. Now, you need to be a damn good one as a starting guard. I know we got excited, left tackle, he's going to hold down the blind side next decade, new David Bakhtiari, all that. Drafting a guard at that position is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And especially if it ends up being a plus player at that. Like, it doesn't matter to me a whole lot where Jordan Morgan plays. It matters to me how good he is.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I think ultimately what it looks like, if this is true, this Rasheed Walker news, they're not signing him to extension to make him a backup, right? That's just not going to be the case.
You'd have a very hard time convincing that player to take backup money who's slated to have or compete for a starting job. And has done it.
Does that mean Jordan Morgan then, to your point, kicks inside and Sean Ryan walks after this season? He's your right guard of the future, probably, right? He split some snaps there last year.
Yeah, but I think it has a lot to do with Elton Jenkins is getting towards the end here. He's probably going to get a little bit more guaranteed money, and they're probably done with him. They're going to move guys around that they think can play there, and they're just going to keep around the guys they believe in the most. And right now, obviously, Elton Jenkins is probably the one everybody's most convinced is good, but Goody is not afraid for moving on a year early.
No.
And Elton Jenkins might still have some good left in him after he leaves the Packers, but I don't think he's long for the Packers. He's one of the oldest players on the team. He's also one of the best players on the team.
Yeah.
But they also jumped ship on Devontae early because they didn't want to play him through, into his 30s and 30s.
No, you're totally right on that. And that's why I'm just a little nervous. I think that's ultimately the conclusion.
I also think we have I also think we have to take a look at the Aaron Banks contract.
A big one?
Yes, it was a big contract, but in classic Packers fashion,
it's only like a 2-year deal.
They
right?
give themselves a lot of outs, and they are paying Aaron Banks a lot of money. He will end up getting a lot from the Packers, but they figured in their cap and they made it so that's not a contract where you're like, it's 4 years of Aaron Banks. After 2 years of Aaron Banks, you're kind of back to where you started.
Yeah.
And I also think there's a little bit, and you're kind of playing with fire by doing this. A great way to get a good player for under what their value is to make them play backup, not give them opportunities, and then say, oh, guess what? Looks like you're our starter now. And then you resign them before that. They're a little bit undervalued, a little bit underpriced.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason Rasheed Walker should probably still be in a competition. If you win it 2 years in a row, it's kind of your job, isn't it?
I would agree. You'd think, but when you invest a first round pick in a guy who went, Hunter was running me through the list of names that were drafted after Jordan Morgan, Xavier Worthy and Nate Wiggins, I believe, were the two immediately next two picks.
Yeah, I mean, I got bad news for you. Xavier Worthy or a guy like Xavier Worthy never ever going to be a Packer. Too small.
Well, they just drafted Matthew Golden.
Who's larger, denser.
Denser in terms of heavier?
Yes.
Gotcha. Not as quick, though.
No. It's just, it is what it is. I don't even know how good Wiggins is. I know he was highly touted.
Yeah.
What he was his first year in the NFL, I have no clue.
Well, as you look at the Packers cornerback depth chart, the point I'm making is it just wouldn't hurt.
I don't think the Packers would. Would you feel better if it was Nate Wiggins, Keyshawn Nixon?
I'd feel better, yes.
Okay. Could you tell me how Nate Wiggins played last year? Or just because he has a brand name of a first round pick?
I could not tell you the ins and outs of his
You're
statistics.
sticker shopping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what you do. I mean, that's
not what you should do.
I'm not agreeing. I'm not disagreeing
You're
with
supposed
that.
to be better than that as an analyst.
Have I ever once been referred to as an analyst?